Hello, it's me, Leslie Bray-Brewer. I am not at the well the way I usually say it in my video series, 50-day video series called Watch Walnut Cove Again, because I made one last spring called Watch Walnut Cove. Go back and watch that 50 days worth. Once we get done with this one, it'll be 100 days worth of Watch Walnut Cove. Today is Sunday, May the 5th. Yesterday was Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. Today's Revenge of the 5th. I get it. But this is the 15th day of Watch Walnut Cove Again. And I'm in a place I have never made a video before. This is my family farm, the old Bray farm. I've just come from that way. My parents live, you see that, can you see that beautiful road? Can you go this way so you can see that beautiful road? Leads down to the old family farm. And I really felt to make the video here because I'm going to tell you something about me that's going to translate into a universal truth for the great move of God coming to Walnut Cove. That's why I'm asking you to watch Walnut Cove, not for anybody's glory or name, but because God's doing something great in Walnut Cove. It's going to get even bigger and better. I'm still in Walnut Cove here. That's the address here. I'm not in the city limits. But years ago, when Walnut Cove was a deteriorating place that young people just wanted to hurry up and get out of, you've heard me say how I wanted that. I can remember in maybe, I don't remember, it might have been as long ago as the early 90s that I felt I was supposed to come back to Walnut Cove. I had escaped to college for several years. I lived in Kernersville for about 5 years. Then I moved a little closer. I got to Walkertown, the Walnut Cove side of Walkertown. And I still thought this is just too close to Walnut Cove. Bags mentally packed, I'm going somewhere else, out west. But then I felt the call back, and you've heard me say this before, maybe last year. For those of you who are new to this series, you've not seen it. A preacher came to preach a revival at my former church in Winston-Salem, Christ Temple Apostolic back in the day, now Central Triad Church. A preacher came, his name was Joe Bulger. He came from, I think, Kokomo, Indiana. And Joe Bulger preached a sermon called Sometimes You Have to Go Back. He had been a drunk, known in his town as like a town drunk sort of person. His wife, if I'm not mistaken, was a good Christian woman praying for her husband. I may have that wrong, but I think that was it. And Joe became a Christian. God got a hold of him. And he thought he'd never go back to that lifestyle. Well, he didn't go back to the lifestyle, but God told him to start going back in his town where he had been like thrown in the jail on weekends. He said, go back to the jail, start ministering to those people, the other drunks who were still left behind. And he actually, I think if I'm not mistaken, he didn't want to do that at first. Hang on, noise. But then he heard God say to him, sometimes you have to go back. And so Joe became a great witness to the people still in the drunk tank or whatever they call it. Well, I heard God say that to me. Thought I heard something move. We saw a snake here last week, so I'm just looking.
Same snake twice.
Well, that's debatable. But I felt the Lord say to me that sometimes, yeah, you have to go back. So I moved back to my childhood home. Now, this is my parents' farm now. It was my grandparents' farm. But my childhood house, which you don't have to pan that way, Alan, but it's right across the little hollow from where okay, he just did it. Right across through those woods is my childhood home. And I ended up moving back there. I bought that house in 1993. I still own that house, but I don't live there anymore. However, I had to come back. And I had a friend at my old church who said, I feel like you got to go back and be a witness to your old friends and neighbors and kids you grew up with who are now, living crazy lives as adults. And I was furious, but God changed my heart that there's nothing more I want. So I thought about how I had to come back. And that's why it seems so significant that here I am, today on the family farm. A few weeks ago, we watched an archived version of The Send, which they had, I think it was in February in Florida. We watched the 12 hours worth of worship, 12 straight hours. It was awesome. And in the middle of that, when we were praying and praising at one point, God literally took me into a vision. I've not even told anybody this. In the vision, I was right here. I still don't understand it fully, but I was here, and it was as if I had gone back to the past when a neighbor one day called and asked me, do you want to go pick blackberries with us? Now it's nearly blackberry season, won't be long now. The bushes are starting to bloom. And it was right through here that I remember us walking that day. I might have been 4 or 5 years old. I was little. But when I had that vision, it was as if God was showing me, I'm taking you back. I'm taking you back to when times seemed purer, you know, when there was the old paths, you could say. Things were simpler. Your childhood, where a morning might consist of going to pick blackberries in the woods rather than turning on my video games, which didn't exist back then. So God has taken his people back to a deeper walk with him, simpler times with him. I've come back to Walnut Cove. I believe God's going to bring people back to Walnut Cove. Even people who've had to leave, they thought they just had to get out. I think he's going to bring some of them back to put their hand to the plow to do this great work in this town, to show people there's a better way. There's a simpler way. The ways of God are so pure and beautiful, just like that blue sky and the green trees and there's big white clouds and it's a spring day in May. That's God's way. For us to bring symbolically and spiritually the kingdom of heaven down to earth. The beauty of God. Now it may rain in a little while on this earth, but God's beauty is always ever flowing and present. That's what we're believing for in Walnut Cove. Sometimes you have to go back. Sometimes back to the places where you used to be down low so you can help bring the other people who are still there out. And then sometimes you have to go back to the old paths, God's old ways, universal truths that never change. Thank you for watching Walnut Cove. Wherever you are, I pray for you to have a great move of God in your town. Not just Walnut Cove, but all over the globe. We love you. Thank you for watching on day 15 of Watch Walnut Cove again. God willing, I'll see you tomorrow on day 16.